RHI. They're to develop a late night management plan due to the increase in late night activities in the downtown area. You may recall from our meeting in November, Chief Lenny Gunther mentioned that for the two patrol areas north of Oglethorpe, most of the crime in those areas occurred late at night. So it is our hope that this plan will help in mitigating some of those problems that occur in that area. This past month, you may have seen reports of the city market closing its courtyards and restricting access by closing everything down with a fence from midnight to 4 a.m. to keep out late night bar attendees from down that area. Because they recognize the problem with crime. And with 4 recent shootings down there since the beginning of last year, hopefully these actions in the nighttime management plan will resolve some of these late night issues. So I think I've set it up pretty hard for you, Susan. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Well, hey y'all. Hey y'all. Happy New Year. It's always nice to come to the Downtown Neighborhood Association and visit what I hope are good friends. As David said, I probably met most of you. I'm Susan Broker. I'm the Senior Director of Special Events, Film, and Tourism. And that's a mouthful, right? So we have a lot of things under our directive, and David mentioned the nighttime management effort. Eddie Grant, who is also in my office, he is really leading the effort on nighttime management day to day, overseeing that. He is on his way here. He's going to speak about that. He is in the 2023 Leadership Savannah class. I'm really happy. They had their first meeting tonight, so he will be here. That's probably him. Let's see. There he is. I also mentioned that Eddie just got a promotion in our office to assistant director. So I know y'all will join me in congratulating him on that. So what I'm going to do first is talk a little bit about a year in review for 2022 for our office, because we do touch so many things, not just the nighttime issues, but like I said, the many other issues. But I'm also going to talk about 2023, and then Eddie's going to give you an idea of where we are with the Responsible Hospitality Institute and getting our report from them, what our roadmap will look like, and what are some overriding themes that came out of that very large public input process that hopefully many of you were engaged in. So let me start with kind of year in review. For the first year ever, films outperformed special events in terms of revenue generated in our department. I see my film friends doing this. You know, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we had more films than we had special events. It means that we were able to charge films more, which is always a good thing. So when I took over film in 2018, so 5 years ago, and 5 years ago we weren't charging a dime for anything. And this year we brought in over $160,000 in permit fees for 187 permits. So we feel really good about that, and you gotta remember those are $200 a pop. So we're really good at finding people and making sure they notify you, and if they don't, they get in trouble. But seriously, we do see our film as partners. I don't wanna dismiss that too much. They are our partners. They're a great industry here in Savannah for us. They employ locally. You know, so it's a balancing act, certainly. We welcome them to our community, but we also recognize that the majority of the places that they do want to film are in neighborhoods that require the removal of dumpsters, that require removal of parking, and so, you know, that has a cost and that has a price, and that has an impact on your life, and so we want to make sure that we are capturing that. We have several large productions on the horizon, and I'm going to not speak about that too much because, you know, Erin is here, and David introduced Erin earlier as their new director at Film Savannah, which we're thrilled to have her. And I'm sure she's going to come back soon and give you an overview of what's happening in her office. And you'll recall the difference is, you know, Erin's job and Renee's job, their job is to go out and get those productions and bring them here to Savannah. And once they're here in Savannah, our job is to manage that. And to permit those if they're on the city property. So it's a good working relationship. They bring them in, we manage them, so everybody loves them, everybody hates us. But that's okay. That's all right. We have been tracking complaints for many, many years with regard to film production, and our complaints have steadily decreased. I think that's a result of many variables, not the least of which is having staff that can address issues that come up on film productions. You know, it's one thing to issue a permit for a production. It's an entirely different thing to have someone available to go out and make sure these folks are doing what they say they're going to do. You know, you give them an inch, right, they're gonna take a mile. These folks are, it's all about the money, it's all about the time, it's getting in, it's getting out. But you know what, you remove one stop sign that wasn't supposed to be removed and it's a disaster. So we have to have that compliance and monitoring piece in hand so that we can reduce those number of complaints and reduce any opportunities for difficulties that may arise of someone acting outside of their permit. The tourism division in February of 2022, most of you may recall that we took over the 4 tourism compliance officers. Unfortunately, by March of this year, we were down to 3, and by July of this year, we were down to 2. We have workers' comp issues that we're dealing with and other issues, so we have a little bit of a vacancy issue. We are maximizing the capacity as best we can. Every single person on my staff is a city marshal that can go out and enforce city ordinances, policies, permits to make sure that people are acting within the confines of their permit. But when you don't have that consistency that we need, you're gonna have issues that arise under tourism. And so we're addressing those. Mostly we're talking about late night tourism activities, large groups of people or trolleys that are you know, staying in one location too long or going around a square too many times. And you know, to the layperson that may not seem like a big deal, but when you live there it is a big deal and you hear them over and over and over. So we want to really get ahead of that for 2023. One of the ways we're going to get ahead of that is we are going to have our tourism compliance officers hire 2 more and have them work directly in our nighttime management division under Eddie's directive. And so those individuals will be working at night, they will be downtown, they will have an office downtown, the Glass House in Ellis Square. And I'll let Eddie talk a little bit more about how he's going to manage that. Tourism Advisory Committee, are any of my TAC members here? There's so many people here tonight. Yep, Steve's here. So Tourism Advisory Committee, we meet once a month. It is an extremely robust and I'll just leave it there. It's a very opinionated group of people, which is great. It's exactly what we need. It's a balance of 5 residential folks and 5 tourism-related individuals, and we have a great back and forth. This year, in particular, we had several different types of tours come to see us to get permitted, and we've had to go back and forth with some folks because they didn't necessarily meet the aesthetic that we are striving for downtown. The way our tour service for hire ordinance is written, we do have one caveat in that, and it says that if the particular tour does not meet the aesthetic of downtown historic Savannah, or it in any way detracts from our landmark district status, that we can deny a permit to that individual. And so we have one company in particular we're going back and forth with. The reason I bring that up to you is because I want you to know that your representatives are fighting for you every month at TAC to say, look, just because it's a business that wants to provide another tour doesn't mean we should carte blanche, just give them a permit and let them go out there and continue to and operate. These are real conversations with real impacts to people, and so it's important for you to know that Melinda and Steve, and of course, Mr. Bill Lovett, is Bill here?
He's back
Hey,
there.
Bill.
How are you?
All right. For the last several years have been fighting for you. I did see on the slide here you had the parklet, downtown parklets. Who got the survey in email form? Did any of you get it?
I think I did.
Okay, good. Well, we can send that out again. So you'll recall in 2020 when COVID hit, we initiated a pilot parklet program where we allowed restaurants to have outdoor seating in parking spaces. Since that time, we've gone back and forth with regulations in our stormwater department, our parking department, our traffic department, and we finally come up with a plan we think makes sense in terms of the aesthetic, in terms of safety, all the other variables you have to consider when you're allowing people to sit in a parking lot, or excuse me, a parking space. And now it's time for us to really dig in, make sure we have some community support, or really gauge what that community interest is in that. And so that's why we did that survey. Please fill it out, turn it back in. We also have a public input meeting in this very room tomorrow night at 5:30, where we will give a presentation about what those parklets would look like if that is approved ultimately by City Council, and to be able to answer questions for you about that. I hope that some of you noticed some additional holiday decor this year. Holiday decor has never had a home. I'm not so positive it fits under special events, film, and tourism, but when you're kind of the island of misfit toys, things just, automatically land in your lap. I try to tell myself it's because I've been with the city for 23 years and I know how to do everything, but that's probably not it. It just needed a home. So we are expanding our holiday decorating efforts. The lights over Broughton are going to stay year-round. The lights on the bridges at Factors Walk, if you haven't seen those, they're beautiful. They're gonna stay year-round. We are also launching this year a sponsorship program. Holiday decorations are a great sponsorship opportunity. And so I have someone on staff who, in her spare time, that's a joke, is going to try to enlist folks to sponsor those activities. We also, and more importantly, I think, are expanding the holiday decorations into the other neighborhoods in our community. So all 6 districts will get more holiday decorations as we grow. We started, thanks Dietrich, or Alderman Leggett, excuse me. Thanks Alderman Leggett. We are starting that slow, but we're ramping that up so that all of our community can celebrate the holidays. And that's really the way that it should be. I'm gonna go quick. Bicycle tour ordinance. Many of you have heard about this for a long time. We have been going back and forth and back and forth. I'm gonna tell you, you think, come on, write an ordinance, it's not that hard. Well, it is. It is very difficult when you're talking about people's livelihoods, when you're talking about safety. So we have a proposal, a draft bicycle ordinance that we are prepared to go to City Council for adoption. That will be forthcoming in hopefully by March. That bicycle ordinance will allow 15 people on a tour. That's the recommendation. You'll recall that for many, many years, that industry has been completely unregulated, and they've had as many as 25 to 28 people on tours. So we are trying very hard to bring that into something that's more manageable. This year we had 239 special events, and by special events I don't mean just a block party, I mean a big special events. That's about 5 a weekend if you're counting. And usually those don't happen in January and February, so you can do the math a little bit differently. Everybody knows it's busy all the time in Savannah. We are a destination for events, we're a destination for weddings. We continue to grow, we continue to have brides coming from New Zealand and wherever else that want to get married in Savannah. But we also have premier events in Savannah that we permit out of our office. We have reduced the number of runs on our streets. I don't know if you've noticed, but we have finally convinced a lot of our nonprofit partners that runs are not the most profitable way to fundraise because you end up paying for police. Sorry guys, I know you're necessary, but they're very expensive. And so you lose a lot of your profit that way. Our plans and goals for 2023, just quickly, we do have one run that's new that's coming, and I wanted to mention it because I think it's exciting. We are partnering with Hunter Army Airfield to do the 9/11 Memorial Run. They've always done this on the base, on the installation, and they want to bring it into Savannah. More to come about that, but I think that's an exciting thing. That's something that all of us can get rallied around. Our nighttime management office, I'm going to leave all the good stuff to Eddie to talk about. We are introducing new fees for 2023. We will be going in front of the mayor and aldermen. These are not, big changes, but we are changing some of our fee structure. And so David, I'll let you know about that as that is forthcoming. We are, let's see, one of our biggest goals for this year, 2 of them, is one, Many of you have been on this journey with me and with Eddie of transferring all of our paper permitting to digital. This was years and years and years. 5 years ago when I got to this department, everything was on paper, literally everything. And so now we have digital permitting software, and we're trying to expand that throughout the city. We're getting our revenue department to get involved, our real estate services, parking and mobility, and really expanding that. And of course, that is really so that we can give our constituent base the service that you deserve. And so hopefully we'll be growing that. And then finally, the tour service for hire ordinance. This takes a long time. We do have our bicycle ordinance, our parklet ordinance that we're working on, but there are many, many things in the tour service for hire ordinance that need to be addressed. Not including, the number of people on walking tours, the number of trolleys that we have out there, what is critical mass, have we reached it? There are many philosophical discussions that we need to have, but we also need to have those, street level discussions as well, because everything, every decision we make impacts another. So we are trying to manage that as successfully as we can. We have a relatively small office. We're all hardworking folks. We are here for you to provide you quality, great customer service, and I hope that's what you get from our department. I am not going anywhere, but I am gonna let Eddie come up, and nighttime management is his baby. So he is going to be on the street managing this, of course, with my assistance and direction, but he's gonna be the leader. So Eddie? We can answer questions when Eddie completes his presentation.
Right. And before you start, I want to recognize Alderwoman Keisha Gibson Carter, who came in after we started. Thank you.
Thank you all. My name's Eddie Grant. I'm the Assistant Director of the Special Events, Film, and Tourism Office. And do we have are we keeping time? Because this will only be like 2 hours, I promise. I'll get you out of here by 10 o'clock. But no, so I know we want to talk a little bit about night management and nightlife and really what that is and what that entails and what our office is doing with it. So one of the biggest things, and with all my notes here, the main thing with this is bringing people to the table and building trust in that process, right? So it's a lot of things. When we look at city government, a lot of times we silo ourselves and communication breaks down, and we're not really doing a good job as city employees with communicating with our residents and our guests and our visitors and our business owners. So that's one of the main goals, is after 5 o'clock when City Hall closes the doors, is building that communication and bringing people to the table to build trust in a process of managing what happens with life at night. So when you think about nightlife, don't think about it as, the party clubs and all that stuff, but really think about it as what happens in Savannah when the sun goes down and how that relates to safety and transportation and everything else. So I want to thank everybody that participated in the sessions. We've been doing this since about the middle of last year with our nightlife consultants. And we've had record turnout to all of those sessions, and really we focused a lot on everything, all walks of life, all businesses, all venues, residents, you name it. And I know a lot of you here were at the table or sent information in to with your fellow downtowners to the table. And I really want to thank you all for being a part of that, because all of that information that we take in goes into the product that we're gonna put out. A lot of times I talk about process being more important than the outcome. We can sit there all day long and say that this is the outcome we want to reach, but unless we develop a process to get there and we just start doing things the right way from the beginning, we're never going to get to that outcome, because it's just going to keep moving down the field. So you'll hear me say that a lot. Right now, where are we at in the process? We're waiting for the first draft of our report to come back from the Responsible Hospitality Institute, which are our consultants that came here to kind of look at everything that goes on in Savannah after dark. We expect to get that by the end of this month, and then once we get that draft report, we'll start going through it to make sure it meets all of the benchmarks and criteria of what we asked for in the study, and then we'll move forward with the final draft. And in that report, we expected to have the goals of our office, the functionality of what this night management program will look like, suggestions and timelines, best practices, things that we can address right now,
low-hanging fruit, if you will, and then things that we want to look at on the horizon, so that we can address those long-term goals. And also, we hope that the report will lead us into a place where people can call after hours, so that instead of, when you have issues with a loud tour, instead of calling and getting a response later on or on Monday or Tuesday when everybody comes back after a holiday or the office is open back up, we hope to get that response immediately while that's going on. Because after the problem happens, it's almost like having a car that has an issue with the engine, and then you take it to the mechanic and say, I heard this the other day, I swear it's there, right? Well, you need to be there when it's happening, and that's part of our goal, is to be out there when it's happening. And again, these are not new positions, these are things that we're doing within our office, so we are working the situation within our office, and as Susan said, kind of revamping and reorganizing a little bit to address these issues or opportunities. Once that report comes back, we'll move to what's called basically a local summit. So that's when we bring everyone together, and those that want to see the report, whoever that may be, into a group, and we do this, and we, along with RHI and those who contributed, so residents and business owners, will help present that report to everyone else that's in attendance. And that report will be all of the best practices and the things I just talked about, things that we look forward to in this nightlife program as we move forward. A couple of things that are on the near future. So the Glass House in Ellis Square. So when we talk about life at night, one of the things we think about is all the stuff that's going on downtown right now. So we've started revamping with a lot of the stuff that we have in-house, that glass building that's in the middle of Ellis Square. If you remember, it used to be a visitor information booth, and then for a very short time, it was a police substation. It had the police wraps on it. We've taken those wraps down and kind of rebranded it a little and put some furniture in there. And that's where kind of our forward operating base is gonna be when we're working with nightlife. And the reason for that is because it's right in the middle of large clusters of nightlife in the area. And that's not to say that nightlife only happens downtown, but that's a starting point where we can get our foot in the door and start addressing a lot of these things that are going on. Currently, with furniture and everything there, we're already having meetings in that location. We're working to adjust the security and staffing. You'll see there's a security guard that's always in there. We're working to change that a little bit and increase that staffing with our security contract, mainly to keep the bathrooms open later in the evenings on Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, to address the problem of people urinating in public, and so that on the weekends we can have a better visual presence down there in that area, along with our PD friends. And also we're working on, as Susan said, hiring for the positions that we have vacant right now. So the two positions that she spoke of that we don't have right now were more of our evening positions. So we're working on rehiring for those positions that are already on our books, and putting those folks out there in the evening time. The good thing about with the glass building there being in Ellis Square is that they'll have a place where they can come in, do their reports, keep an eye on everything that's going on, the tourism, everybody doing all of their stuff during the evening, and report back to us. So it just increases our presence in the downtown area with staff that we already have. So there's some overarching themes and kind of being the facilitator of change with our office. In what we're doing now, and again, our goal is to bring all of the experts to the table. Our office does special events, film and tourism, and soon to be nightlife. We're not the experts on alcohol or on fire prevention or police, public safety, and everything else. But we do have the ability to bring all of those folks to the table, so we can have those conversations and start breaking down those silos that exist right now. Because really it comes down to communication within the city and from the city out to the public, and getting the information from the public back into the city. So there's a couple of overarching themes that we want to look at for 2023, and I always consider this like a roadmap of sorts, because anytime you start saying, I'm going to do this at this time, there are things that could happen, or you might get it done sooner. So our overarching themes include cleanliness and lighting. We're already looking at the lighting in Ellis Square. You'll know that there's those portable light towers that are down there that kind of look ugly right now. We're working on trying to adjust some of the lighting that is already in place to make it brighter down there, so we can remove those light towers. Late night transportation. So when you think of life at night, again, it's not just nightlife venues. It's hospitals, it's people getting home from third shift, it's your workers and everything else. So how do we get folks home? And how do we get folks home safely if they are out there enjoying a night at the club, right? And they're too drunk to drive home. We want to make sure that they have a way to get home. So establishing late night transportation options, working with our police friends to improve on our public safety stance in ways that we can address things that are going on right now in the downtown area. Again, building that communication, not only between our offices, but also out to the residents and out to the public. And then, of course, addressing homelessness where we can. That's come up in all of the meetings that we've done throughout this process. There are key factors that have continuously come up each time. Homelessness, public safety, lighting, and transportation have always come up. So we hope to address those issues throughout the year. And we hope that this report that comes back will kind of guide us through those best practices to slowly get those things done and come back with some verifiable results for everyone, right? So we can say this is how things were and this is where we're at now, right? And we can slowly move forward and keep moving that car down the street, if you will. Also, in our roadmap for 2023, we want to start building those solid, trusting relationships with not only our venue owners, but our residents. Now, I know a lot of times people think about nightlife and they're like, the only thing they're focused on is the nightlife venue. So that is by far not the truth, right? Life at night is livability for all. So we are focused on residents just as much as we're focused on venues. And a lot of times we find out that when you put each other in a vacuum and you listen to the venues and you listen to the residents away from each other, you guys have the same concerns. It's homelessness, it's lighting, it's cleanliness, it's transportation, right? So we hope to address all of that and work with each other, both residents and venue owners, again, to build that line of communication and to build that trust. A lot of work with night management is quiet, and it happens behind like the scenes, right, if you will. And that's a good thing, because we want to make sure we're working with venues, and we're working with residents, we're working with our tour companies, and we're getting that voluntary compliance with them. Because when we gain that voluntary compliance, they have that urge to do what is right out the gate. So we don't have to go through and go down this path of all these other things that could happen. We hope that we get that communication with them from the beginning and get and really a lot of this comes to just enforcing things that we already have, that are already city ordinances that we can address now and handle. And we want to look at starting to recognize those venues and tour companies and everything that are doing things the right way and to a high standard, those that set the bar for others to do things the right way, right? And that will come well into the future, I'm sure. In building that communication with you all, really I want to start getting an email blast out, more of like a newsletter format than just sending out basic text emails to everyone. In developing groups of users on that. So if it's or content, so if we can push that content out to everyone within the city almost instantaneously. So if it's a nightlife thing, we can send an email blast out that's focused on nightlife. If it's an events thing, we can send it out that's focused on events, and you guys will be able to sign up to whichever ones you want to receive information on. But by tailoring those communications to specific topics, you don't get inundated with all of this stuff in one email blast, right? And then start not reading it because you think it's junk mail or whatever. But really pushing out information that people can use, and then giving it away through those communications that we can get information back from everybody and react to that almost in real time. So, thank you all.
Let me jump.